Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. And today on the program, we are very happy to bring you a fantastic guest, as well as computer and technology news with time allowed. So obviously, the first part of our show is always dedicated to our guest, and as much time as that takes. Joining us today is a company called Lume Cube. You may remember them. They were on the program just a couple of months ago, and I say just a couple of months ago, but time flies, and it's probably been 6, 7, 8 months, and hey, we've got a great response from that one. So when they came out with the Lume Cube version 2.0, we decided that hey, this was a perfect time to have them back on, and we'll be joined just in a moment by the brand marketing manager for the company. But also in the second part of the show, computer and technology news, a lot of great stories and articles and things like that. We try to keep up on, today's tech and news and that kind of thing. So you don't have to, because we spend all day on it and we can still barely keep up. So don't worry about it. We got you covered. Real quick, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including the show notes. It will have the live video feed. It will have anything and everything that we do here on today's program right there, easy to find. And hey, we'll also have a link to our guest website, as well as the archives, the podcast, things like that. So with that being said, we should have some new reviews going up this weekend. Obviously, we have put up like 4 new reviews this week. So if you want to check out any of those, we have everything from flashlights to dash cams to rechargeable batteries, not just any rechargeable batteries, but ones that recharge using USB-C. I thought that was pretty interesting. But everyone, hey, check it out, computeramerica.com. Follow us on social media at Computer America, so on and so forth. There you go. Let's go ahead and get things started. So joining us today, as I said before, Lume Cube. They were very interesting guests. The idea of portable lighting, and actually speaking of one of the reviews that we just did, we had a company that is dedicated to making lenses. It was Hitcase, and their lens pack. They had wide angle lens, super wide, macro lenses, and it really made me realize that even though we all use our phones to photograph, record video, things like that, some of the basics from photography in general are just now starting to make it to kind of that scene. Because hey, yeah, you could just whip out your phone and hit the button and take a pretty darn good picture. Phones have come a long way, but the basics, including lenses and lighting and composition, that is really starting to intrigue more and more people. And let's face it, with an audience of, I don't know how many smartphones are available out there in the world. I'm sure it's, over 1 billion. That's how a lot of people, either just do about anything. But my point is, to take your photos to the next level, you don't have to go out and buy, an expensive camera with an expensive flash and things like that. There are ways to really get a superior quality using something like Lume Cube. And of course, Lume Cube is also compatible with some of those more expensive cameras as well. I just am very familiar with the brand, kind of syncing up with your phone. So to talk about all the use cases, how it works, what works, and that kind of thing, and what's new, of course, joining us today is none other than Mr. Trevor Farrow, and he is, again, the brand marketing manager. So 1 second, I got it here, and there we go. So Trevor, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. And of course, long-winded introduction, but I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show. And if you could give us a little bit of background on, kind of Lume Cube and also your relationship with them. When did you start working for them? And last but not least, a little bit of background on yourself. Have you always been in tech or photography? What's your background?
Sure. Yeah. So my background, went to San Diego State and got my degree in business marketing. So came out of college, was hungry, excited to get out in the workforce, and came across this small San Diego startup, Lume Cube. And at the time, I had no idea anything about photography other than using my phone to, take pictures of social events and things like that. But at the time when Lume Cube first started, it was when GoPros were exploding. So the original idea of the company, which I'll get into in a little bit, but
Sure.
was all around, GoPros are not that good in low light. They have small sensors. So Lume Cube really came out onto the scene as a lighting that kind of matched the GoPro in specs, was made for all creators, but the light was waterproof to 100 feet, super durable, and kind of helped you light up the GoPro footage. And a lot of their marketing was in the action sports world. We had like Ryan Sheckler on board, and Jamie O'Brien, these surfers and skaters that were doing really cool things. So while I was in college, I saw all these things happening, and I was like, wow, that is a San Diego-based company. That is so cool. They're working with all the guys that I follow on social media. This is rad. So went to the interview. It was a really good fit. And that was about 4 years ago. So I'm right now, I believe I'm the third longest running employee at Lume Cube. So I've seen the days where we were, in a very small room, kind of messing around with prototypes and figuring this thing out. But yeah, my background had nothing to do with photography. Was more, I surfed and kind of idolized these guys that were surfing at night with the lights. And that's what drew my attention to Lume Cube. And then throughout the years has somewhat morphed into the company that we are today. And obviously now I'm much more into photography, and I've learned a lot. But yeah, that's kind of the background on myself. And then, yeah, the history of Lume Cube. I mean, as I mentioned, it was when GoPros were exploding. So they wanted to create a lighting solution, and the founders of Lume Cube, they saw the photo and video industry, everything was getting smaller and smaller, where iPhones were shooting 4K video, and these 360 cams, GoPros, the mirrorless cameras were starting to come out, and they didn't see lighting follow that same direction. It was still big, bulky lights that you had to plug into the wall, you break your back to carry them to location. So out came the idea of the Lume Cube. Was funded on Kickstarter, raised about $300,000 on Kickstarter, and that's really what got the company started. So I came in just after that first Kickstarter. And then from there, we've really been innovating, and listening to our customer has been a really big help for us. And you hit it on the head in the introduction, where the knowledge of content and what it takes to take a good photo is becoming more mainstream, which is obviously great for us, because as you start to learn things about photography, videography, you realize how important lighting is. Photography literally is the study of light. So now, your grandma or mom will be taking a Christmas photo of you and be like, hey, I need a little fill light over there. It's a little dark on the side. So it's cool to see the industry kind of being moved forward, and techniques of lighting and all these things becoming more mainstream. Like a quick side example, I remember when Apple came out with that commercial promoting portrait mode, where they were talking about bokeh and like, did you bokeh out my son, where they're like adjusting the background blur of the photo. And I just thought that's so cool that things like bokeh and important lighting techniques are now becoming things that everyone should know. Really helpful for us, because we have now developed certain lights that appeal to different creators. So everyone from someone who's shooting with their smartphone to someone that needs on-camera lighting, off-camera lighting, they need to dive underwater, or even videography, lighting for drones, lighting for streamers. We're really trying to create custom lighting solutions for everyone that needs light to do what they're doing.
Yeah, and really, you kind of barely touched on it, because obviously, we are a radio show, but of course we have a live video component where we stream, of course. And a little fun fact: we actually, we've received the Lume Cube Air for review. So you probably know when that came out better than we do, but we've reviewed it like 6-7 months ago. And and of course, that's actually what we use to. Well, that's one of the lights that we use to kind of light up our studio. It's really incredible. Even just with with just basic cameras and just even your standard webcam that you would get from, let's say, Logitech or somewhere else, or even like a built-in camera. Just changing from like one source of light, or just adding like a second point and things like that. I mean, just for video conferencing, like, it doesn't even have to be about capturing the perfect moment and posting the perfect thing to social media. Just in general, just kind of upping the production value of everyday tasks really adds something to to kind of you as a business too.
Absolutely, yeah. That in January of this year, we were at CES and unveiled our, I guess you call it, our streaming section of our lighting, where everyone has had that pain point where they're about to get on a Skype call, or maybe a job interview, or maybe just connecting with your virtual team, and your webcam pops up and you see yourself and you're like, oh gosh, like I look like I'm dead asleep still. You're trying to find the window in the room to make yourself appear more well lit. So we knew the struggle there. So we took our expertise in LED lighting and applied it to the desktop. So now we have a couple different solutions. The Air, the one you guys have, is a great solution for mounting it on your desktop or next to it. Really low price point on that. It's a good entry level one. Then we now have our more studio quality one for like guys that are really big on Twitch, and you guys should probably have a panel because you do this professionally every day, and it lasts much longer. It's a much softer light. So now we have different lighting solutions kind of depending on your needs. But it's equally as important to appear well lit just in live broadcasting as it is in your content.
Absolutely. And obviously, luckily our show's about an hour, so the Lume Cube Air, definitely lasts about that long, and we've never had any problems with it, so I can kind of endorse it there. But I did want to say that the company Lume Cube has really tried, it seems like it's really tried to embrace a lot of these different trends. You mentioned streaming. There's, if you look on the website, on the live video portion, we're showing your website right now. You have everything from drone kits where you can, kind of strap these things onto drones to better light up whatever it is that a drone is filming. So again, streaming, drones, sports action, kind of cameras and things like that. Also just things that you would consider in very traditional lighting. I see here that you have things like barn doors and I'm going to use words I don't know, barn doors and snoots and things like that. Like you've really taken lighting just for everyday causes, and it seems like you're trying to introduce everyone to, people may not know why they need a barn door, but you're going to offer it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting, the response to an accessory like a barn door or a snoot. It goes one of two ways. It's, what is this? Or someone that comes from the photo video space, they start dying laughing because it's the smallest barn door and snoot they've ever seen. And it's just like, it's barn doors and snoots, for people that don't know, it's big studio lighting techniques where you hook them onto your studio lights and you can control the beam angle of your light. So if your light is a floodlight, it's lighting up the entire room, you can kind of use the barn doors to narrow it in on your subject. And the snoot is the same idea, but with a cylindrical shape. So you could do like a spotlight effect on something. So yeah, we've taken the techniques of big studio lighting and scaled it down to these small, portable, unbreakable lights. And like we have kits that come with like 22 pieces in the kit, and there's literally dozens, if not hundreds, of lighting effects that you can do, because you can put color gels on them. You can put snoots, barn doors. We work with Leaf Filters, who make our diffusers, so really high-end diffusers, warming gels, all these fun things that you can really get creative with lighting, where it's not as simple as, am I well lit or not well lit? It's like you can have one side of your face red and blue for your portrait. You can do a line of light on your eyes. We really wanted to give the end consumer the power to be creative and take the same mentality towards taking photos and video and apply that to the lighting. And it's been a really good response. If you guys haven't checked it out, go to our Instagram. We have the coolest customers on earth. They do the coolest thing with our lights, and we share a lot of stuff up. So if you want to see what's possible, head over there. But yeah, and to touch on the drones really quick, when we first came out with the lights, it was not intentional to get into the drone space. But at the time, drones were starting to explode as well. And here we are with this small 3-ounce, super high-powered light. We figured out how to mount them on the drone.
And sorry to cut in here, but I think that we should rephrase it a little bit. Drones started to get really big or really popular. Let's not say blow up about drones. But yeah.
It's a good call.
Drone photography definitely has come a long way recently.
Absolutely. So we have these small, powerful lights, and we started putting them on drones, and it's been amazing what people have been able to do with light painting the sky, and then the functional uses, of course, where if you're inspecting something or doing commercial work and you need to really have your drone's footage be lit up well to see what's going on, it's a really good solution for those commercial pilots as well.
For sure, yeah, and we decided to check out the Instagram page, and really that idea, for those of you who don't know, I think you call it like a light painting or sky painting, essentially where I'm assuming people are taking long exposure photos, and they're using the Lume Cube light on drones to then draw pictures, swirls and swoops, and just these very fantastic looking pieces that you get the great shot, and then something almost like fantasy to them as well.
Absolutely, yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, you open up your camera shutter for 30 seconds or however long you need, and then the sky is the canvas and your drone is the paintbrush, and you can really create whatever shapes you want. We even have people that can program their drone using GPS coordinates to draw like Batman in the sky or something crazy. We have an ambassador that is working on breaking the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest light painting using GPS coordinates. So it's been really cool to see how people are using the product, for sure. It's inspiring.
Definitely, and I highly recommend the the Instagram page as well. So here today, I mean, like we said the last time we heard from you guys, it was all about the Air, and now since then you have released the Lume Cube 2.0, and if you want to tell us when that came out, and then we can start talking about kind of what's changed, because how do you improve on, we kind of got our hands on the Air, and it was sturdy. You didn't, you shouldn't, but you could, you could kick it, you could submerge it. It had a lot of light for such a small little frame. Talk about when you released Lume Cube 2, and talk about what improvements people can expect.
Absolutely, yeah. So about a month and a half ago, Lume Cube 2 came out onto the scene, and really what we wanted to do here was keep the same form factor and features that people came to love. We have grown because we created kind of a disruptive lighting product. So we wanted to keep the things that the people love, like the hard aluminum body. You literally cannot break this thing. We run it over with cars, drop them. The size and power immediately catches people by surprise. It looks very small. It's a 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. You turn it on and you're blown away by the power. So we wanted to keep these things in there that people loved. And then we wanted to listen to the feedback and see what do people really want to improve upon. So we did that. And then, of course, the original Lume Cube came out in 2014 is when we developed that product. It's 2019, so LED specs have come a long way since then. Mm-hmm. So we kind of combined customer feedback, new LED specs to come out with the Lume Cube 2.0. So what we've done, obviously the LED inside is much improved, higher CRI, which is the accuracy of the light. The battery, the runtime on full power is an hour and a half, whereas the original Lume Cube was about 30 minutes on full power. The color temperature is improved. So out of the box, it's a daylight balanced color temperature, a little bit warmer compared to the original Lume Cube. Of course, it's still Bluetooth controlled. So all of our lights you can control from your smartphone, mm-hmm. whether you want to use it on your smartphone or, you can control as many lights as you want with this thing. So from your smartphone, you could put it around your subject, take a photo, and they'll all flash at the same time. So a lot of the upgrades were in response to our customers, and a few of them were new light modes that we wanted to install into the light. So one of them it's called low light mode. Mm-hmm. And if you can't guess what that means, it's an extremely low, you can put the light into low levels of light. So if you hold on to both buttons for 3 seconds, it'll drop down to 1%. And this really plays into the night photography market and that light painting aspect we were talking about earlier, where if you're taking a 30-second photo, even the light on 10% may blow out your image. So we wanted to give our creators the option to manually drop it down to those super low levels of light to do light paintings or time lapses or long exposures at night. And then, of course, this works really well for macro photography or things where you just need a little touch of light. So that was a new mode that we've introduced. And then the second one is a much improved optical slave mode. And what that is if you are into flash photography, mm-hmm. the Lume Cube 2.0 will actually communicate with your flash units. So we've installed an optical sensor on the top of the light. And if you hold down the right button for 3 seconds, it will go into this optical slave mode where anytime that sensor detects a change in light, it will fire with your flash at your desired flash duration. So if you need a little fill light or a catch light or a hair light while you're doing your flash photography, you can place this within your scene and it will flash with your lighting setup, which is really cool. And then upgraded charging to USB-C. And then we tossed a few accessories in the box. Before the original Lume Cube just came the light itself and a charging cable. Mm-hmm. And now we have included a few of those diffusion accessories we were talking about. We threw in a white diffuser and a warming gel just to get you to understand the lighting effects you can create with these diffusers out of the box. So softening it, warming the light. And then we also included a little camera mount as well. So a lot of upgrades to the light. We tossed in some fun accessories to get you creating dynamic lighting effects out of the box. But we kept the same philosophy of the light of small, powerful, portable, and affordable.
And really it shows, kind of while you were describing that, we had the YouTube video, for the Lume Cube 2 playing in the background, actually matched it pretty well. I was actually surprised, but I got to say that.
Yeah, that's me in the video, so I had a lot of practice.
Hey, there we go. And well, I'm sure that you did all in one take, but I got to say that, seeing some of the features that you were talking about there, like especially the light sensor, just knowing that, when it noticed that change, just you running kind of running your finger over it was triggering the light to kind of flash. Very interesting, because obviously not every camera is going to be able to connect to Bluetooth or things like that. Still, and I guess that's my question, is that compatibility and backwards compatibility with some of your other models and compatibility with let's face it, it's the camera market is as varied as any tech market out there. How important was it to be compatible not just with your own accessories and other lights, but really with as much as you can?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what good is a light if it doesn't mount to your camera or doesn't work with your camera? It's a great question. So the Lume Cube 2.0, or all of our lights really, they're all quarter 20 base. So that's kind of the standard in the photo video industry. So it comes with a little camera mount. So if you do have a shoe mount on top of your camera, a lot of DSLRs have it. Some of the smaller ones might not, but it slides right on top of your camera if you did want to use it as an on-camera light. The Lume Cube does not communicate to your camera using TTL or anything like that. So the only way to have it communicate with your camera as a flash is using that slave flash function. But we have a lot of people that prefer constant light on top of your camera for a couple reasons. One is it's kind of what you see is what you get. You know, when you're looking through your viewfinder, you have an idea for the outcome of the photo without having to shoot, then come back, look, kind of change your flash settings. That's a big one. Two, I'd say a lot of people use it as a focusing light. Whether you're using it as your main light on camera, your camera is allowed to pick up eye autofocus, or even if you are using a flash, we've seen people mount this and a flash so they can grab that focus before their flash fires. So there's a lot of benefits of using constant light on camera. And then if you don't have the shoe mount on your camera, there's some good, like Joby makes some good rigs where you can mount your camera to it, and then the lights on the side of it. So there's a lot of ways you can have compatibility with cameras. But honestly, my favorite uses for this are off camera, because it is waterproof and durable. You can place it where light hasn't been able to be placed before, like in a tide pool. If you're shooting a sunset photo, you drop it in a tide pool to make the water light up from within, or in the dirt, or behind your subject as a hair light. Because it's so small, you can hide it when you're seeing. You can edit the light out easily in post. It's a one click to remove the light out of your scene, which is really cool. So there's a tons of ways. I could go on forever about how to use them in your content, but that's kind of how it's compatible with cameras on the market.
Yeah, anyone who sees me in person nowadays would never assume. But when I was growing up in Florida, me and my friends used to surf, and back in the mid 2000s when I was surfing, we used to go to whatever drugstore and buy those the disposable cameras in the waterproof cases, and that's how we would take pictures of each other, while we were surfing.
Nice.
Yeah, and being able to, and like those were some of the worst quality photos I think I've ever seen, because and lighting was just one of the problems, but lighting was definitely just such an afterthought. And especially, I'm sure that in sports shots and things like that, I mean, even with the people performing the stunts, they have to be followed by someone who is almost doing the exact same stunts. But then, hey, one slip, one fall, you're going to break, $1,000 worth of camera equipment. Being this rugged, and you mentioned some things like running it over with trucks. I believe that when we talked to Riley last time on the show, he was very proud about his stress testing and what you're able to kind of subject these lights to. It's very important.
Absolutely. And I mean, just surviving the gear bag is, a lot goes on. The gear bag is if you're a travel photographer, moving around a lot. So that was another feature we wanted to have on the 2.0, is make it harder to turn on. The original one, it was a simple tap to turn on, and a lot of people would get to their shoot location and realize their light's been on for an hour and it's out of juice. So this one, you kind of have to hold and press for a couple seconds to get it to turn on. But yeah, our main customer loves the product because it can go where their studio lighting or their ring light might not be able to go, because it fits in your pocket, and can really last a long time without being plugged in.
So, Trevor, I'm going to give this to you because I gave it last time that you guys were on the show, and I'm sad that it didn't make it into this iteration. They said that maybe they were being they're being real, maybe next time. I was actually curious as to if there was any interest, and obviously you have the filters and all the different gel filters that you provide. Everything from blue, green, red, yellow. It looks like orange, and some of the more things that if you don't want to go out in the sun, they'll make you look tan. Very, very nice. But I was actually curious because this is an LED light, and a common feature of LED lights is that ability to have, what is it, 26 million colors or whatever it is, essentially making it RGB as well as, kind of Kelvin-based light.
Yes.
And I was wondering if there was any
asking
interest in that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question. We get it a lot. So, so the idea with the Lume Cube and kind of why it's so popular, like I said, is size and power. So the Lume Cube itself, we wanted to keep the same form factor. We could, if we wanted to include RGB, the light would have to be a little bit bigger so we could have some different LEDs in there. And of course, when you share the space with other LEDs, you're going to have a little bit less power. Whereas we came out with a light called the panel. It's a LED panel. It's about the size of an iPhone 7 Plus. And that one is bicolor. So not RGB, but bicolor. So basically goes from daylight balance 5600 down to 3200. And in that light, if you're changing color temperature, the orange lights are turning up in intensity and the white lights are turning down. So that's kind of how LEDs work, whereas the Lume Cube is so small, if we were to put that inside the light, it just wouldn't be as powerful. So what we've done for this, if you want a light this small and powerful, the way to change colors is going to be by overlaying gels. So we only have 4 colors right now. I'm sure you can combine them because they're all stackable to make some other variations, but red, green, blue, and yellow, we have those color gels that you overlay on top of the light to get those lighting effects. Where we are looking to implement RGB is on the panel side of the business. So for that light that there's a little bit more real estate to put more LEDs in there and have that ability to add color to it, absolutely. We're looking at that and hopefully we'll have something in the works very soon to share with everyone. But as far as the Lume Cube goes, the small, rock size light, I don't know if that will ever become RGB just because people love the size and power that this thing has.
Yeah, I completely understand, and thank you for explaining that. But I also have to say that we're kind of looking here at the Lume Cube panel as well. I mean, all this together, it's really. You keep talking about your key audience and your demographics and things like that, and I guess. Do you want to expand that audience to, and of course, I'm sure that you would like everyone listening to the show and everyone out there to buy one of these, but I also wanted to say that, if this is what your photographer base really likes, things like that, I'm not saying that the photographers are wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that should everyone else really set up and take notice of, kind of what you're doing here, because if this is what the professionals like and this is what the professionals are kind of demanding, then even if it seems, even if it's not flashy, RGB, that kind of thing, it is going to provide you with that, kind of next level of quality and, kind of professionalism. Like even if, geez, how do I want to word this? Everyone can still find some use in this, even if you don't know this is exactly what you need. This is, this is professional gear. This is, this can get a lot done that maybe you weren't thinking of before.
Absolutely, no, you're 100% correct. We are a business at the end of the day. We want as many people to buy our lights as possible, and that is our strategy right now: is to create a light for everyone. So. The panel was kind of our way to address the video market because they need to be able to adjust color temperature on the fly, have a light that lasts 8 hours on low power, all these things. So yes, probably our most requested thing that we get is having RGB inside of a light. So yes, and I would say the reason we haven't done it yet, we are still a very young company. We're about 4 years old that we've had products on the market. So I don't want to say we're slow moving. I would say we're quickly growing, and we're now having the ability to launch products a little bit faster. We launched 3 new products this year, whereas before we had launched one new light in the past, 3 years. So I'd say we're really now just catching our stride and being able to respond a little bit faster to the audience's needs. So you're 100% right. We're looking at those solutions, and man, we really listen to what people want, and we've done a good job of delivering. So I would just say keep an eye out in 2020 to see what we're up to.
I have always noticed that your company in particular is actually very good about getting back to social media, things like that. So if anyone wants to reach out and talk to you guys, I would definitely recommend social media to get out there and talk to you. And one more thing I wanted to kind of touch on with the Lume Cube 2 and some of the upgrades. You talked about it just briefly, but I noticed this is actually an upgrade from what I was experiencing with the Lume Cube Air, which is you have like these silicon kind of slip covers that you would have for the Air. This time you've switched it to magnetic. Why magnetic? Is it is it so that you can have multiple filters or things like that, or is it just more sturdy? What was it in demand? I mean, why did you switch to magnetic as opposed to just kind of the slip on?
Sure, great question. Yeah, the silicone diffusers that come with the Lume Cube Air, that was really, this is our, going back to, we want to create a light for everyone. We wanted to have it somewhat of an entry level light, or if you're filming people, within a couple feet, or you're vlogging, things like that, the Air works really well. So using it for what you do works super well. The downside to the silicone diffusers, if you were to start shooting some bigger shoots where your subject's a bit farther away, it cuts back a little bit more light than the other diffusion system that we have. So now the same diffusers that come with the Lume Cube 2 and that whole line of snoots, barn doors, that is all available for the Lume Cube Air. We launched that diffusion system a couple months ago. So if you did want to have these higher end diffusion systems on your Air, you could do so. But the system you're referring to, the magnetic system, we really wanted to create a seamless way for people to get really creative with the attachments. So the silicone diffuser, you put one on and that's what you're using. It comes with a white and an orange one. So you're stuck with that color temperature orange and that level of diffusion. Whereas the new system of gels, diffusers, modifiers, they're all magnetic. So it's really easy to apply to your light. You need the modification frame, which comes with the Lume Cube 2.0. You put that over your lens and it has a full metal frame in there. And then what that does, the magnetic rods on the diffusion accessories just clip onto that super easy. And then once you have it on, you can go, okay, I'm going to do a blue light with a snoot, for a creative lighting effect. I can do barn doors and orange light and some honeycomb grids on there for whatever you wanted. So the magnetic system was really our way to allow you to have pretty much endless variations of lighting effects that can all stack on each other and allow you to have a really fun system to play around with light.
I can definitely see that. And, there's a lot of things that we haven't really touched on. Obviously, you have, just so many kinds of mounts and so many different ways to attach them to drones and cameras and, desktops. And we use the suction cup to strap it to the side of our desktop and, and things like that. It's, you have a lot of products. It's to me, it's, you mentioned that you were a pretty young company, but even for such a young company, like I said with earlier, the photography and the camera thing, like there are so many kind of niche products that it doesn't really surprise me that you already have, what's this looking like, 30 different attachments and stands and different products to get this thing in any way that people could want. And I see that you have bundles and things like that, but you have to have a lot of different products, going into this. It's very impressive.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Thank you very much. It goes to our operations team. They're always looking for new fun things. And I would go back to what good is a light if it's not compatible with your device? And it's almost a blessing and a curse that lighting is literally needed for everything. every device you're creating content with, if you're streaming, all these things. So the challenge is really to us to create seamless mounting solutions for all of those, whether it's our smartphone clip to get your light on your camera. We have the one you're using, the suction cup mount. That's like, if literally I have a flat surface, I need a light on it. Okay, go with the suction cup mount. We have triple mounts that you can put multiple lights on top of your camera. There's, the GoPro mounts, the drone mounts. Every time a drone comes out, we're racing to get it spec'd out to get drone mounts for it. So the mounting side of the business is definitely a very fast moving one. Where as companies are launching new cameras, we're figuring out how to get lights on them so people can use our lighting with that camera and whatnot. So yes, we definitely have a lot of accessories, and it'll continue to grow as new cameras and devices come out onto the market.
Absolutely. And I think the last topic before, we have to say goodbye, because I've already kept you probably far too long. The last thing I wanted to touch on, yes, it connects to Bluetooth, and, there's a lot of things kind of you can do out of the box, but you do offer, either through the App Store or Google Play, so iPhone or Android, you do offer an app. So tell us what the app does, and if people download that, what kind of added features does that provide?
Absolutely, yeah. So the app is called Lume X. And through the app, you can control the Lume Cube Air and the Lume Cube and the Lume Cube 2.0. And really the ability in the app, you can adjust the brightness with a slider. So I use this a lot if I'm mounting my Lume Cubes in a tough place, whether it's underwater or up super high where I don't want to get up there and push the button. I'll just simply have my phone open and dial my lighting effects from the app. And then, of course, you can put it into that optical slave mode from the app. You can adjust the flash duration on the app. But if you are a smartphone content creator, this is really where the app comes in handy, because, you're in the Lume X app. It's a camera app as well, so you can take photos in it and they go right to your phone's camera library. But you can set up a truly smart mobile studio where if you're doing portraits with your iPhone, or shooting something outside, you can place your Lume Cubes around your subject. You can name them in the app. So you can change the name to hair light or left light or up light. And then you can adjust those specific lights to the brightness intensity that you want. And then when you go to take a photo on your phone, your Android or iPhone, all your lights will fire at those desired brightness settings or flash duration. So it's really, really an advanced lighting setup for iPhone creators. And then for everything else, it's somewhat of a wireless control deck where you can control your lights from the palm of your hand. And then if you are into GoPros as well, we've integrated the ability to turn your GoPro and your lights on at the same time. So if you're doing something like a time lapse or things where you need to wirelessly control your GoPro, you can press record and the GoPro will start recording and your lights will turn on at the same time. So it's a fun addition to have with the lighting setup for sure.
Yeah, thank you for first getting into that. And I got to say, Trevor, that's a lot of information, and I think we've covered it pretty darn well. Did we miss any topics that you wanted to talk about, or any areas that we may have, kind of not touched on enough?
Oh man, you got some good questions. I think we covered most of it. I would say, man, we like you mentioned, we're super engaged on social media, so. Send us a DM, message us on Facebook. We have a weekly photo contest that's really fun. It's called Capture 4 Cubes. You can check it out on our website. We basically give a Lume Cube away every week to our favorite creatively lit photos. So we pick the best ones. We let our community vote on them. We'll pull the top 8 photos and they all vote every Monday. We post it up. So if you go to our post every Monday, you can kind of see the finalists, how it works. We have hundreds of votes in the comments. So it's a really fun photo contest. So definitely enter that. And then obviously this is right before Black Friday. So keep an eye out for Black Friday. We have some really cool deals coming down the pipe to check out.
Great to hear. Great to hear. And again, obviously just, my preference, and we do have a review up on our website for the Air, but yeah, I am actually a huge fan of your product. So I'm happy that we could get you back on. And for anyone out there, if people want to find out more, we mentioned social media and of course Lume, Lume Cube. So I'm sure at Lume Cube anywhere on social media, but where's the best place to go? Your website as well?
Yep. So same spelling, lumecube.com is the best place to check out kind of the products and, the blog. We have some videos, photo galleries on there that are super cool. And then sold also in like Best Buys, B&H's, pretty much anywhere that sells camera gear, you can find Lume Cubes as well.
Perfect. And of course, we'll have a link to that at computeramerica.com. It'll be right there in the show notes. And again, Trevor, thank you so much for coming on Computer America. I think that really wraps up the interview. It was a lot of fun. I knew it would be, and I'm happy that we make time. And actually, one last question. CES. So obviously, we're going to be at CES. We'd love to stop by. Is Lume Cube going to have a booth out there?
Unfortunately, we will not have a booth. We have kind of a meeting suite. I know I really wanted to have a booth there and go big. We will be there, so maybe we can meet up and have an interview in person or something. We'll definitely set a time to meet, but no booth this time around, but maybe next time.
At least you guys are going to be out there, and trust me, we've been asking all of our guests, and it seems like that's like just being out there seems to be enough because of being able to just meet up and just say, hey, what's up. But hey, I'm happy that you guys are going to be out there in some capacity. Definitely going to look forward to meeting you out there. And in all, I'm looking forward to what's coming with Black Friday, like you said, and the holidays. And next year, I'm sure that you already have, I don't want to say the Lume Cube 3, but I'm sure you already have a lot of things in the works. So look forward to it.
Absolutely. No, we're excited to keep coming out with new fun products. So thank you very much for having me, Ben. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. So everyone, once again, this has been Mr. Trevor Farrow. He is the brand marketing manager for Lume Cube. And Trevor, until next time, have a great one. Thank you so much. See you later.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. So there he goes. And yeah, I just want to say again, thank you so much for checking that out. And if you want to find out more, lumecube.com, show notes, all that good stuff, hey, catch it there. Now, in the remaining 13, 14 minutes, why don't we go ahead and do computer and technology news? And this is a segment, once again, dedicated entirely to, yep, you guessed it, computer and technology news. So let's go ahead and get started. So I think that for our first our first story that we're going to cover, and there's kind of fortunately, unfortunately, probably more on the side of unfortunately, there's not too much kind of tech stuff going on. A lot of stuff about anti-vaxxers, but boy, if there's ever a topic that I did not want to cover on the show, it's going to be anti-vaxxers. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about just real quick. Okay, how about this one? So we just talked about Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN and how you can bundle them all. And I wanted to talk about this because, just this past Wednesday, we had Sandy Berger on the show, and it looks like a little bit of our information is going to be off starting December 18th. So for anyone out there who's maybe on the fence, this might push you over the edge, but hey, we got to get it out there. This is by Billy Steele and from Engadget, saying that Hulu increased the price of its live TV service again. And this, by the way, is one of the things that really leads me to believe that Disney Plus is not long for the completely no ads life. But here we go. Saying that Hulu's live TV streaming is about to get more expensive, where the company announced today that the Hulu live TV option would increase to $54.99, so $55 as opposed to $46. There you go. And they said that this is the second time in a year they have asked for this increase, because originally the service debuted back in 2017, and up until the beginning of this year, it stayed at $39.99, and now we're up to $55. So that's a $15 price increase, which doesn't sound like a lot, but consider that's an entire Netflix. That's, when it comes to streaming service, and of course it's live content. If you have a cable subscription, I'm sure that you've seen everything from, messages to entire networks being blacked out, saying essentially, we're having a dispute with your content provider and your service provider. So, they always ask you, hey, send a comment into the FTC or send a comment into the service provider to get them to, make a deal. Essentially, everyone is quibbling over an increasingly small amount of money. Well, I should say shrinking, because it's not small. This is a huge multi-billion-billion-dollar industry. But the revenue in general is really shrinking, so prices are going to increase. And this is why I really want to drive the idea of cord cutting home, because even though it may not be a complete shift, the total number of cord cutters is 50,000 this quarter, 100,000 this quarter, 300,000 that quarter. Overall, when you are looking at cable subscribers and the hundreds of millions of people, it is not that big of a deal. That's like 0.1 or 0.01% of the entire user base. Even though cord cutters would love you to believe that everyone's doing it and it's the hippest new thing. The only problem is that it's the opposite trend than what cable companies are used to. They could keep prices at a certain price point because there was an ever expanding user base. Now, for the first time in history, in the first time since TV has existed, we are heading into a day and age where people are actually unsubscribing from cable. That is, that's a first, and the industry is going to react very strongly to that. Such as, even though we've been talking about Hulu Live TV, which is their live TV option mixed with their streaming option, they're going to want to really hedge their bets because they know that people are cutting the cable cord, so they need to make up that revenue elsewhere, and where else but the live TV and Hulu option. So with that being said, if $55 is too much and $46 is just enough, before December 18th, you might want to lock that in. Now, there's that one. Let's go ahead and continue on. How about we talk about, I like this one. And I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard about, the seed vault, and a lot of people have heard about this idea that, I don't know, keeping things in cold storage. And by cold storage, that means a lot of things. It means that it's not really accessible, or it's literally cold. There's really not a lot of interacting with it once you put it in, and cold seems to keep things nice and healthy, I guess, as far as your storage goes. So GitHub, the one purchased by Microsoft, GitHub will store all of its public open source code in an Arctic vault, much like a supervillain. Wahaha, indeed. And this is by Miss Rachel England from Engadget, saying that there's a lot of things that could bring about the end of the world. And hey, we all know them all too well. In the event that things do go belly up, what will happen to the masses and masses of data and digital stuff that humanity relies upon every day? And part of me is like, well, if an asteroid hit and ended society as we know it, then how much do we really need that one particular app or that one open source thing to rebuild society? And it's like, But the other part is that just like the seed vault, where in case, corn as we know it is completely destroyed, where do we get more corn? You go to the seed vault and you withdraw some of the seeds and you produce corn that way. So replace corn with code. And this is where GitHub is now going to the Arctic to store its code. At its Universe Developer Conference 2 days ago, GitHub announced that its archive program, it's planning to preserve all of its open source software for future generations. The program will see this data stored on an ongoing basis across various data formats and locations, including the Arctic World Archive, a vault hidden 250 meters within an Arctic mountain in Svalbard. Good old Svalbard. Who hasn't been there? And they said that Yeah, the data is stored on reels of film coated with an iron oxide powder. It can be read by a computer, or in the event of a global power outage, a human with a magnifying glass. Because who doesn't want to read open source code with a magnifying glass in a hovel as you try to rebuild society? They said that the film will last for about 1,000 years, and among the first data deposited was the source code for Android and Linux operating systems. That's right, Mint is going to be just fine, as well as a range of programming languages, web platforms, cryptocurrencies, and artificial intelligence tools. They're planning on having all the active public repositories stored by February 2020. If you want to make sure that whatever you create is going to last until 3020 in 1,000 years, go ahead and upload it to GitHub already, because they're going to store it. They said that the data will sit alongside digitally preserved national archives from around the world, including art, music, scientific breakthroughs, historical manuscripts, and archaeological finds. Should some of the apocalyptic event take place, all this data could well be used to help rebuild a global society. If not, it will at least act as a valuable time capsule, and of course, who knows what happens in 1,000 years when it's finally time to dust off the iron oxide and read the films, see what's going on. Hey, might be a very, very cool thing, because really think about 1,000 years ago, think about how crazy we get when we discover a new tomb in Egypt, or even, something to do with the royal family in the UK. They just dug up, I want to say like Henry VIII or something like that, or Richard II out of that parking lot. We freak out when we see things from like a couple hundred years ago. 1,000 years from now, this is probably the best way to store digital information. So I did find that interesting, and hey, I wish them the best. Let's go ahead, and I think we have time for just one more story. Let's go ahead and talk about so many to choose from, and so many anti-vaxxers. I don't want to. How about Google? Google, and a lot of the Computer America fan base, in its early days, they had an RFC chat room. And when I say had, I think it's still there. And I think that the RFC chatters, they are some of the most deeply ingrained, I think deeply in touch with technology and its roots than any other base that uses technology to this point. Well, almost a successor to that, you're looking at RCS. The standard has been hanging around for years as an upgrade to the aging carrier SMS texting standard, but since the carriers are in charge of it, the rich communication service has been going nowhere fast. Google is apparently tired of waiting for carriers, and they will launch their own RCS service in the UK and France earlier this year. The industry giant is now bringing its own RCS implementation to the United States. So they're saying that the RCS will go through the Google Messages app, Google's ninth messaging app after Google Talk, Google Voice, Google Buzz, Google Plus Messenger, Hangouts, Spaces, Allo, and Hangouts Chat. Yeah, Google has a way of killing off chat applications. And by the way, some of those, including things like Hangouts and Google Voice, some of those had millions of users, and Google was very cutthroat with them anyways. So let's go ahead and just say that users of the app will eventually see a notification saying do more with messages, and you can enable the chat features, which is RCS. They say it will start enabling to US users in the coming weeks, and the service will be broadly available by the end of the year, which is not too far away. We're already halfway through November, so, hey, keep an eye out for that soon. They said that the service isn't end-to-end encryption, so Google or your carrier could read your messages. So it's not end-to-end encrypted, but which is unfortunate. It's becoming pretty standard. Even Facebook is using end-to-end encryption. Everything from Facebook to Apple to a lot of applications that people use, so I wish it was. It also treats your phone number as a primary identity, giving carriers an unnecessary amount of power over your identity. This makes a ton of sense when carriers are designing the spec. They want to make themselves the center of your communication life, and anything that you send through this format would, of course, then be picked up by, well, your carrier, and of course, anyone else, including maybe the NSA. They said that since RCS is so basic, it isn't really a great standard for messaging services. The only power that it has comes from the fact that your carrier might do it, which would instantly upgrade the baseline messaging services it offers on new phones. So I guess the point there is that the rich communication service, it's not better than most of the other chat apps that you have out there, but it's better than basic SMS, which we've been using for a long time. And the point of it is that you could at least have those minimal upgrades to your basic texting without having to change your phone, upgrade your, change service providers, things like that. This would happen all completely on the back end. So with that being said, Google seemed completely caught off guard by the development and eventually issued a response saying that we remain committed to working with Android ecosystem to further enhance the messaging experience on Android with RCS. So that had to do with this whole thing that's happening with AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile, so on and so forth. Google has failed at messaging an astonishing number of times. It's a very basic messaging platform with no encryption and limited platform compatibility, enough for it to succeed this time. The author being very skeptical, but I think completely right to be skeptical. So with that being said, I think the music, which, hey, happened right there, means that we are just about wrapped up. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. If you want to find out more, computeramerica.com, or wherever podcasts are heard, simply search Computer America, or beyond that, social media, Computer America. Everyone, thank you, and until next time, we will be back Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, and hey, until then, looking forward to it. Catch you then, everyone. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.